Wow, so that's really a heck of a background, and I think that gives everybody a better idea as to where you've come from. So I want to get to a couple questions in terms of deciding, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to start a restaurant. What do you feel the toughest part of that is?
Concept, number one, coming up with a concept that makes sense, whether it's for the lease space that you got your eye on, or if it's a food truck sort of mentality, or it's fast casual versus full scale restaurant. There's a million different ways you can go, but tuning in the right concept for the right development is critical. Obviously, you got to know exactly where you're going with this thing, what the room will lend it to. A lot of my restaurant builds, I've started off in one direction thinking it's going to be this, but based on the style and the vibe of the room, I've had to change gears. Sometimes that gear changes all the way into the cuisine based on what I'm dealing with in
So
terms of the
you've
room.
based off the way it feels when you start designing and you start discovering technicalities, you said, wait a minute, I got to switch complete gears
Sometimes
midway through.
you walk into a blank room, an empty room, and you get a vibe of what can work. Could this be a burger fast casual style place? Could this be more of a sit down restaurant? Could this be a dinner house sort of environment? You just get a feeling for it. I don't know. I've been doing this a long time, so a lot of it's just based on experience, and when I walk into a room, kind of getting a vibe for it. The biggest struggle I would say to the young person who's starting a business and getting cracking in a hospitality concept is capital. Is generally the biggest hurdle of all, is having enough capital to actually do the project. So a lack of capital does a lot of things. It can bring on a partnership. Partnership sometimes is an inequitous relationship. One guy's got the money, but the other guy's got all the sweat equity. Sweat equity is the terminology that we use when one guy doesn't have any money, but
He's just the manager.
he's gonna put in a lot of sweat equity. So he's gonna earn his shares of the company based on showing up to work every single day and working. That's the essence of the sweat equity partner, is the guy that's putting in the time. The problem is a resentment tends to build in those relationships. So you got the guy that you needed $100,000. He gave you $100,000. He gets his share of the business. He doesn't need to do anything else. The condition of that relationship was, I'm going to give you $100,000. You're going to build the restaurant, and I've got a piece of this restaurant. It's our restaurant. The guy that's putting in all the work, even though he didn't put any money up, tends to be the resentful one, who's upset that he's putting in all these hours and they're splitting the same dividends at the end of the month, or the end of the quarter, or the end of the year, however you're doing it. So that is a problem. Undercapitalized restaurants is one of the biggest causes of failure. You don't have enough money to actually do the project. You're not going to pull it off. No matter how great your concept is, you're not going to pull it off. You need the capital to actually build the place, to develop the concept properly. You need the capital, working capital, beyond the days that you first open the door. You still have to have money to operate. You can't spend your last penny hanging that last picture on the wall, and then we're going to open up Monday morning and try to survive and hope everybody gets off the couch and comes down to our cool new place, and you have no money in the account. Undercapitalized restaurants, one of the biggest reasons for failure. So
Is that something you personally struggled with?
Initially, I had 3 business partners in my very first venture.
One business, including you or not including you?
Including me. So it was me and 2 other guys. One guy was the idea guy, came up with the idea, brought us together. He got a third of the action. Another guy was supposed to be the money guy. He was going to commit to a third of the shares of the company. We were under the understanding that he was going to put in $400,000. I think that was the number. It's a long time ago. Turns out he only had about $110,000. So I got real creative, and I was the sweat equity guy. I'm the guy I just explained to you, who played the role of the guy without a nickel to his name. But he took 33% of the shares of the company because he was going to be the managing member of the company. So I'm just going to be the guy there day in, day out, everything else. Yeah, I execute us all the way through the build out and the opening and the actual running of the business. So it worked okay for a while, but eventually, like I said, these resentments set in. People start questioning, like, well, what are you doing for your shares? What's he doing for his? And resentments build. Partnerships are tough, very tough. If you have the capital to run the business on your own, I would strongly suggest you do that. You know, then it's all you, sink or swim on your own ability.
And there's nobody else you're counting on.
Yeah. So capital, I would say, is number one, along with concept. Those are real big priorities. And then you get into the always, you know, important things of what it is you're actually going to try to present as a business, and what is your target demographic. Is that target demographic in proximity to your restaurant? You know, those are all issues that are must check offs,
Right.
as you're going down the list of getting ready to open up a business. So,
well, that I can imagine that being something that's tough. So let me ask you to kind of switch gears on that note. What do you think the biggest success you personally have ever had in the industry, or generally, what do you think can be the biggest success for somebody being in this business?
well, I mentioned this before, but you will be as successful as your team. So if you put together a winning team, you got a much better chance of success. Restaurants are not a one-man show. One guy does not sink or swim the entire concept. It's just not how it works. My biggest successes were with a very large team, and I being the guy with the captain's hat on and the guy pointing us in certain directions, I would have accomplished nothing without the team to actually execute the ideas and the visions. So I had the right team in place to be very successful, and it worked in my favor. And generally speaking, what makes for a success versus a non-success, I mean, it's tough to say, because if this is an entertainment concept, it could be based on your ability to continually and consistently develop that entertainment and have that good quality entertainment. You know, if you're going to be a reggae club and you could only get your hands on 2 different reggae acts, and they were only available once a week or once a month,
then it's not going to be very well.
It's going to be very difficult when people go in there expecting top quality reggae to be playing, and you've got nobody.
Right.
Or, you know, you've got a great band one week and you've got a lousy band the next week. So a lot of it is just how you position the concept and how you market it. You asked a little bit about marketing. Marketing in this day and age is social media marketing, mixed in and usually very connected to your website. Your website and your social media have to work congruently together, and they have to be consistent and constant and never lapsing. They always are moving. They're always evolving with the company. As you're moving items in and off the menu, they need to be promoted or deleted. You know, all that stuff needs to take place. So you got to have the marketing aspects down. Having a graphic artist involved that can stay consistent with the company to put your marketing pieces out, that's all critical. You know, if you don't have somebody in-house that knows how to do that stuff, you're going to be paying for it. And you'll be paying a pretty penny. It's expensive. Graphic artists are expensive. So what else?
So in terms of passion, obviously you believe you come up with an idea, you invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in it, you want it to work. So there's that fire in you to make it work.
Mhm.
Not just in terms of before you started your own companies, when you were learning management, as well as the beginning of your career. Was that passion instilled in you because you liked the learning it, or did it take years and years and years of success for that passion to build? And was it more so stress at first, or did you enjoy it? Was there a desire to make it work?
You yes to kind of all of that. And then there's stuff that you didn't mention that is part of that. So the passion was to succeed. The passion wasn't, when I started off in life, I didn't, if you would have asked me at 15 years old what I was going to do the rest of my life, restaurant was not going to be the answer. Okay. I don't know what the answer was going to be because I generally didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew for certain that it wasn't going to be restaurants. So life throws curveballs at you all the time. I believe certain people would be successful in any field they went in because they're raised with a work ethic. Okay. They were able to set goals and achieve those goals personally without being prodded or a carrot dangled in front of them. They worked hard in whatever the task was. Goal setting and achieving goals is really what life is all about. The most successful managers are those that can get his staff or her staff to set their own goals. The frustrated manager is the guy that's constantly got to dangle a free dinner or $100 bill on a sales contest or tip percentages or things like that, where they're constantly trying to motivate their staff to perform. A successful manager catches them doing enough stuff correctly that reward is self-provided. They're setting their own goals because they love to achieve their own goals. It's really critical that you find that place within your management, your style of management that, and for yourself, of course, you want to be somebody that challenges yourself to a goal and sees yourself through to achieving that goal. And you'll find when you achieve it, you'll set another goal. Those people in life will carry that regiment and that work ethic through, whether they were electricians or plumbers, a garbage man, no matter what it is.
Right.
They would be successful at their jobs because they care about it. The passion, a lot of people are motivated by a lot of different things. Money, right? In this day and age, especially you young kids, this is your motivation for everything. Pay me. To be successful, I believe it takes more than just monetary.
Paycheck.
More than a paycheck. Okay. Feeling like you have value. Feeling that you're being appreciated by the people that employ you. And having them support you in the goal setting that you're creating for yourself and the achievement of those goals. That creates that passion. Paychecks create a sense of appreciation, of course. You're getting paid a lot of money to do what you do. You feel like the company appreciates you. The crazy part about those high positions where you're getting paid a lot of money is the margin of error is very small. So as much as you think that amount of money that you're being paid is some sort of mercury level of how much they appreciate you, their patience for a lack of performance, their dedication to educating you on what you're not doing right and to teach you how to do things wrong, away from the spectrum of failure in their eyes, is almost non-existent. So their patience level is zero. Paying you a lot of money, things aren't going well, you're out. Kids learn that the hard way. But having a passion for what you do, well, it's critical, because the restaurant business that I chose, it's everything. Because if you don't love it the minute you wake up in the morning, you're going to hate it by the time you go to bed at night, because it's a long day and there's a lot of not great things that go on during your day. But for people like me, it fuels me. If I go to bed and it was a tough day, I'm looking forward to making tomorrow a better one, and I just don't quit on it. I'm not going to, there have been moments where I thought, man, I made a mistake. This was not the right concept. This is not the right thing. But I love this business and I enjoy it.
So,
good.
Sorry, to follow up on that. I know that there's the saying that I'm successful today because of my failures from yesterday. Do you feel that is a saying that to any young entrepreneur or restaurateur, is accurate? And did you experience that yourself? Did you have to fail in order to succeed? Did you have to fail today to succeed tomorrow, sort of thing? Do you understand?
Well,
See it? I'm
one of the things we haven't talked about is that I've been a restaurant consultant for years, for the last, I don't know, 15 years now. I do a lot of restaurant consulting, helping guys that are in challenged situations, situations that are very difficult to navigate. And every client I've ever had, they always ask, like, my God, how did you learn all this stuff? I said, I learned it because I stepped on every mine in the field. I've blown off every limb I got from making colossal mistakes. Of course, you learn from your mistakes. Is it critical for your success? Look, I don't know how many mistakes the In-N-Out Corporation made, but they're so wildly successful, I can't imagine that they made too many. Some people just have the greatest of ideas, and they don't have the growing pains that I had. Not all my ideas were perfect. Not all my ideas were home runs. I did not hit lightning in a bottle very often. But I've had some good concepts. But had I not made the mistakes in business, I wouldn't have learned how to do it the right way. There was a lot of arrogance in my youth that I felt like, oh, I don't need to worry about bookkeeping. I don't need to worry about accounting. I don't need to worry about taxes and all this other stuff. I don't need to know all that. Half the guys don't know all that stuff. I did need to know that.
Do you feel like you didn't need to know? Did you have people around you doing that? Is that why you felt like it wasn't important to know?
I felt like, look, we pay a CPA. Well, I don't need to do this. Why do I need to even know this? I'm paying somebody to do it. I have a bookkeeper. I don't care about this stuff.
Right.
It was critical to learn all of those things, to be successful. It really was. And going forward in life, as I've continued to develop restaurants and concepts, I go about it a little bit more seamlessly now than I used to, because I've made so many mistakes, incalculable amount. That carries over to life. It's not just a restaurant thing. It's life. You just make mistakes in life. You learn from them. You become better as a result of it. Like they always say, there's no bad experiences. There's just learning experiences. It holds very true.
Even being a younger guy, I can say that that's true. I've been in situations where I've, work or whatever, it hasn't gone well, and it turns out that, well, even though it didn't go well, I learned what not to do,
right,
so to speak. So
in the future, you won't make the same mistake.
Exactly. So I want to kind of get past the mentality of starting the business, being passionate about it, being successful, and switch gears to more you being as an owner, as a manager, and what you are like in day-to-day business. For example, you're an owner. You're also, I imagine, you manage all your restaurants day to day. You get somebody that applies as a shift manager or a supervisor or a regular restaurant manager or a executive chef, second in command, whatever you want to call it. Somebody applies, you interview them. What is your process to not just determine, okay, they're good, let's hire them, and then once you hire them, what do you make that person do and go through in order to really test their ability and see they're rock solid? I want this person a part of my team, and I want to count on this person every day to work with me to make this thing work.
Well, in the prior answer I gave you, I told you that it was critical to actually learn all the aspects of the business. So from learning how to be a chef, to learning how to be a dishwasher, to learning how to be a server, learning how to be a bartender, a busboy, a cleanup guy, a bookkeeper, a CPA. I'm not a CPA, but I know enough about it to be dangerous. So the critical part of all those positions when you're doing the hiring is to know something about those fields, right? It's very difficult to manage a chef if you don't have the slightest idea how to cook. You don't know what he's doing right or wrong if you have no experience whatsoever in that specter of your business. It was critical to learn it all. And over, if you go back to when I started, 15 years old, 41 years ago, I started in restaurants. over those 4+ decades, I've learned a lot of stuff about all those different positions, right? So if I'm hiring an executive chef, well, those are real simple. I'm hiring some guy to cook. Let's go in the kitchen right now and cook. And if there's a hesitancy to that, if the guy's like, I didn't bring my pans, we got pans. I didn't bring my gloves, we got gloves.
Your first light bulb goes off, then he
Right.
doesn't know.
Something's wrong. And I can't tell you, I'll just give you a specific example. With chefs, I always do the same thing. I'm hiring a cook. I give them a raw chicken breast. I give them a frozen chicken wing. I give them a hamburger patty. And I give them an egg. And I ask for the hamburger patty to be medium rare and the chicken to be cooked properly. And the frozen
Is
chicken
this
wing.
just executive chefs or
No.
all kitchen staff?
All kitchen. Every cook I've ever hired, I give them the egg and I tell them I want it over medium. I give them a non-stick pan. I show them all the different items. They can use butter, they can use oil, they can use this, that, the other, and bring it back to me. All 5 items.
Right.
I've had chefs walk in the door to start the task of cooking those items and walk straight out the back door without saying a word to me and leave, get in the car and leave.
And you don't even know that they're gone.
No, I walk in the kitchen like, how's it go? There's nobody here. Oh, the tray I gave them with the egg, the hamburger patty, the chicken breast, and the frozen chicken wing are still sitting on the tin waiting for somebody to cook them. A lot of guys apply as positions and they claim that they've got a lot of experience and they don't. There's nothing new about that.
So you don't sit down and go, tell me where you've worked, tell me
well, that's
basic
all
instincts, what's your food cost. You go, prove to me that you know how to cook.
Right. If I'm hiring somebody to do something very specific like cooking, he better know how to cook. That's not a sit in an office across a desk and get a feeling for how good he or valuable he's going to be to my company. I'm hiring him to cook. He best know how to cook. If I'm hiring you to bartend,
We're going to go behind the bar and you're going to pour me a drink.
right? You're going to pour several drinks. I'm going to watch your pour, make sure your pour count is right. Make sure you know what 1.5 ounces really is in a cocktail, whether it's a 2 liquor drink, 3 liquor drink, 4 liquor drink. I'm going to throw a lot of curveballs at you, but I want to see you perform.
And when they're
as a
going
bartender.
for executive chef or bar manager, is the standards higher?
Well, yeah, because you've got the management side of it. Executive chef does very little actual standing on the line cooking. Smaller restaurants, they may do that a lot, but in a true executive chef, and very few guys I've ever met in my life are actual executive chefs. Generally, what that term is kind of evolved into is the guy who hasn't gotten fired over the last 20 years. He's still there. And he's the only guy that knows how to make all the food. So he's the boss. So it's more of a survival of the fittest sort of mentality than it is an actual executive chef who's trained as a chef. Okay. Executive chefs run the business of the restaurant in terms of the food operation. So they're not only in charge of the creative aspects of the business, but they're also in charge of the financial aspects, the performance of the food, the plates, the portions, the decor, the profit and loss of that kitchen, what style of rice they're going to use, what every single solitary ingredient is his decision to make. So he's got to be a very experienced and very professional guy that understands the business aspect of it. Half of the executive chef's job is sitting at a desk working on a computer. The other half is down doing research and development in the kitchen, but he spends a lot of time on the computer, a lot. So it just depends what department. You're interviewing a busboy, you're not going to go throw a bunch of cups all over a table and go clean them up. That's not
Probably same to a server, right?
Server, you want to check references, you want to make sure that they've got proper employment history. They're not, in this day and age, because of the laws set up the way they are, you're waiting for the only question you can ask is the ultimate question. Are they available for rehire? And when that answer is no, it's because they don't want to tell you why it's no. They can't answer legally. They can't tell you why they're not.
So if you said, for example, I've got so-and-so, Joe Schmo here, he is applying in my business as a server.
He said he
just
worked
checking his reference, and he states that he worked here.
Yeah, is he eligible for rehire? Because that's the only question they can answer, yes or no. They can't elaborate. They can just say yes or no. And if they say no, you need to move on because there's a reason it's a no. And then that no is usually comes
And
with
you
a lot of
won't,
weight.
and you won't kind of ask them about it or dig it. It's
By all means, yeah. I mean, you're certain to ask, but people are certain to lie too, right? I mean,
true.
he's going to give you his version of it, which might be, completely 180 degrees from the truth.
And at the end of the day, you got a business to run. You don't have to sit here and play, detective on somebody's
No,
employment.
I don't have time to put him under a light and ask him the tough questions.
Right.
It doesn't
Or
matter.
come up to a lie detector.
He can find a job somewhere else.
So if
He's not gonna work.
if it's yes,
Then
you
he's
explore that further.
usually, if it's yes, it's followed up with some compliments. Oh yeah, good kid. Yeah, I would hire him back in a heartbeat. People will give you some adjectives to give you something to go off of generally. It used to be where we were just able to tell the truth. That used to be the world we lived in, but that's not the case anymore. So we have to protect those that behaved horrifically bad.
Right.
So yeah, it is what it is. So hiring, sometimes it's just a vibe. You're sitting across from somebody, they've got the right energy, the right spirit. You can see that there's a liveliness to them. That's somebody you want on your team. If they're sitting there and they're kind of a drip and boring in the interview, and then you see that there's no excitement to the job, why do you want to work here? My mom says I have to get a job. You're like, oh man, this is going to be terrible. So you can get a feeling for it just talking to people, but if you like them and they're a very qualified position that they're looking for that pays a lot of money, you'd be foolish to not test them on what it is they're claiming to be great at. So that's what I do.
Well, that's probably all you really can do. I can't imagine there being any more further vetting, especially with the laws and whatnot, the way it is. But
you can do background checks. You can put people through background checks. You can drug test people. You can do all kinds of things. So there's a lot to it. That's not common in the restaurant industry to go to that level of extent of doing criminal background checks. And
real quick before we move on, I know you're a busy guy. You got to get moving here, but I did hear that the restaurant business has a high turnover rate in terms of staff, meaning you don't get a lot of people that come in it and they stay in it for 20 plus years. Most people come, they're in it for a few years and they're out the door, then then move on. It's not a lot of committed.
It's the college job for a lot of people, especially front of the house people. It's a college job, but there are people that make a career out of this, that make a great living. There's no shame in that.